Thank you. We'll now call to order the Minturn Town Council meeting of June 4th in 2025. Roll call, please.
Gusty here.
Brian here.
Lynn here.
Eric here.
And Earl is here. And Tom, and who else is here? Kate are not present. Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Am I in your way? Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. Anyone want to pull anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Gusty, second by Eric. Eric, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have a regular agenda. We have an amendment to make. We are postponing item 11B till next council meeting. We had a couple of other options to consider. So with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the changes of postponing 11B to future agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Eric, second by Gusty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have the swearing in of our new town manager. This is awesome. Well, we've let's get this right here. So, your name.
I, Robert Bloomfield Gutierrez,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado,
Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado,
and the ordinances of the Town of Minturn,
and the ordinances of the Town of Minturn,
and that I will faithfully perform all duties of the office of Town Manager
and that I will faithfully perform all the duties of the office of Town Manager
upon which I am to enter.
upon which I am to enter.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Okay, next item on the agenda is declaration of conflicts of interest. If there's anybody on the board who has an item on the agenda that you're in conflict with, please let me know. Hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, here.
I don't know, am I in conflict with the Normandy paving project? Could I get an opinion on that?
Norman Avenue.
What?
Norman Avenue.
Yeah, am I okay, or should I?
You're not. You're not part of the paving crew, are you?
Not that I know of.
Okay, then I don't think you have a financial interest in the contract other than the general benefit of getting your street paved, unlike anybody else.
Okay. So the answer is no.
No.
Cool. Because I was going to declare a few in the past, but it was. But anyway, okay. So now we have, this is the section where we allow the public to address the board on any item that you wish to discuss with us or actually address us, unless it's on the agenda, in which case you can wait till then. Do we have any comments? Yes, want to do comments? Spence? Name and address, please.
Spence Neubauer, 444 Eagle River Street. Thank you, town, for addressing the traffic. It's been terrible. I don't know how we fix the way they're doing that, but the thing I did want to talk about was my neighbor Spence. We live on Eagle River Street, so it's one way in, one way out, and then there's Buyer Avenue next to the church there. So her house is across Buyer Avenue from the church. They put the snow there every year. They block the street, which I don't enjoy. But every year they break her fence. not with the loader, but probably the snow falling over. They obviously affect the stairs of the church as well. So if there's something we could do of putting that snow somewhere else, maybe next year in the future. I appreciate the work that Public Works does. When we moved here 10 years ago, it was atrocious. It was never plowed. And they make an effort now to make it the first day when it snows, but we really do need to move that somewhere else. It also, the enormous weight of that snow ruins the road. It ruined her sewer that she had to replace on her dime. And then she's out there always fixing the fence by herself, paying for the wood herself, doing all the labor. So if we could do something maybe about that snow pile next year, as we are finally done with snow this year, but to get ahead of it.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Cindy, do you have anybody with their hand raised?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to council comments and committee reports.
I don't have anything.
I did also email CDOT, my friend in communications, because I feel like despite, it's necessary to get drainage, there projects need to be done, but if they don't, like last year, they had a sign up all year that was warning road users of a project that was going on Highway 50 near Montrose or something, right in front of our town. And then they couldn't put up any sort of signage saying what they were up to here. So I feel like, I know that it's not CDOT doing the work, but they approved it, I'm sure. And some more proactive communication on their part would be really helpful, because then, we're not all getting text messages and emails and people confused and making up stories on what was going on. So anyway,
Yeah, that took everybody a little bit by surprise, quite frankly. Cindy spent some time talking with the project manager about that, and one of the major problems is that they're going from 7 to 7, which of course with the commuter traffic that just really piles things up. And so she's got them to change their hours from 8:30 to 4:30, I believe. Yeah. And so
That is supposed to be the case, Earl, but we're getting conflicting information if that's happening.
thank you for correcting me, Cindy. No promises, huh? But anyway, she worked on that for a while, and then hopefully they will fall into line on that. And it's just a lot of the transitions are caused of that too, lack of communication. So the city's got a plan that she wants to sit down with you, Rob, and go through. So
I think people are willing to understand that there's needed repairs and it's fine. Just like a little more proactive communication just helps people, like how long is this going on? When's it going? That kind of thing. Just people like to know, like to be in the know. And it's cool to see also the Minton Road and that Eco Trail bridge is in, and that looks like it's graded and getting ready to be paved as well. And I've been seeing cyclists and tourists coming in, looking at the signage that Cindy got up, directing them into town. So it's kind of cool to start seeing that. And I think this weekend we're going to start seeing a lot of people in town. So be ready to put your files on. Come eat at our restaurants and spend money at our businesses.
thank you, Brian. Whit,
I don't have anything.
okay.
Just a reminder, everybody, GoPro starts tomorrow. Dual slalom events will be happening at the Minturn Bike Park. I believe practices start, I think, as early as 9 a.m. tomorrow, and then they'll be Thursday, Friday. I think just those days, but yeah, come out, check it out. It'll be a fun event to watch.
Oh, they have like a big jump or something like that they're doing.
It's a good question. Check out
Anyway.
GoPro's website to find out more.
Yeah. Go to GoPro. Okay, thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I don't have anything right now, so we'll move on to the manager's reports. Jay?
My manager's report is in the packet. I did want to give a little more update on the traffic concern. I definitely have heard the public. I'm getting alone 20 to 30 calls a day. The project includes the utility locate install. One of the reasons that CDOT didn't put signs out is because it's an Excel project, not a CDOT project. It just happens to be on one of the roads. I think that's the reason that happened. they close one side of the road and then alternate traffic, and between alternate, they close both so that they can, they're boring under the highway and running a gas line there. The construction times, like Cindy said, they were supposed to do it, but I talked to them and we set it up where they would do 8:30 to 4:30, trying to get them to not have as serious as the backups. The reduced hours could lead to a longer duration. They were supposed to be done tomorrow with this S-curve portion of it, and then but we've asked them not to work Thursday and Friday due to the GoPro games, and they've apparently agreed to that. But they also did 4:30 today. But the S-turn's due to wrap up this Thursday. It could be Monday because of that. Between 6:05 this Thursday and or Monday and 6:20, possibly longer, they'll continue north from the S-turns and up to the Battle Mountain business park, that kind of area, Dutch Auto. The restoration will be completed by 6:20. They should not take, then they'll be done with the single lane closures. They'll be doing some cleanup beginning Monday, July 7th. They'll asphalt patch in areas. They will not be working the 7-4 holiday, nor will they do our 7-2 holiday. I'm thinking they're probably going to try to take that whole week off just because it's going to be chaos anyway. In late July or early August, they'll roto-mill 2 to 4 inches down where they've been working and repave the whole thing. So we'll have another inconvenience, but we'll have a brand new pavement. We've taken what we have learned from the project, applied it to the Excel decel lane that they're doing up at the U.S. Forest Service Bridge. I talked with Rick Hermes and and his crew today, and they're looking at doing like a 9 to 4 process there. If they have to shut down a lane and alternate traffic. I made them aware, and we discussed the concerns of multiple projects, one at the Forest Service and one at the S-turns. The idea is not to get people stopped for 5-mile stretches. In the future, we've actually learned from this. I have to tell you, this is one of the first times that I can recall since I've been here that we've had this kind of an issue. We always had the problem where the school bus would run their lights, that kind of thing, and it would back up that way. But we really haven't had a traffic issue. Somebody called yesterday, and told me that they were closing down they were doing alternate traffic down at the Belden Place area, and I'm like, I didn't think they were doing that. Turns out it was just backed up that far. In the future, and Jeff, I was hoping maybe you could help because you do see some of these plans that come through. If they're going to affect Highway 24 and they're talking about closing, we were hoping to do a 9 to 4 process instead of 8:30 or 8 or something like that. We would require a traffic plan, and then town staff will review for similar issues that we're having with this one. And then we required advance notice on the highway. Maybe CDOT could be putting signs out. When I drive around on the interstate, I see that they're doing 9:30 to 2:30 on the pass. So, our stretch is a little bit longer that they can work. But we're looking at keeping the website updated. That might change even during the day. So you might look at it in the morning, and then in the evening it might have already changed. Just, we're trying to keep as much going on. Cindy sent out an e-blast this afternoon that included a lot of what I just stated, and then to keep looking at the website. So if anybody's got any questions.
Sometimes if there's any way to, I don't know what we could do, but I think Waze and Google Maps is now directing people down Boulder and Pine to get around it.
And
so it was good timing to put up those speed bumps
Yeah.
because I'm seeing just people obviously no clue where they are coming down Pine and Boulder, looking around.
Yeah, last night
traffic.
When I pulled out, I was backing out and I stopped because a car passed by me. I thought he was going pretty fast, and he really bottomed out with those speed bumps. I think he did some damage to his car.
Actually, were actually directing traffic on Minturn Mile. The construction people were really backed up there.
Yeah, and people are trying to do that. They're trying to take Minturn Road and circumvent some of it, and it's just not working, so.
Okay. Anything else for Jay? Okay. Next, we have the other manager's report.
Well, this is my last official in-office day, so thank you very much for this opportunity. And I provided quite a stack to hand it to Rob, so hopefully he's ready to go.
Any other questions for Katie?
Just thank you for all your work.
For your service.
Probably so.
Yep. Okay, next item is special presentations. First presentation we have is Speak Up and Reach Out.
Hi,
Hi, how you doing?
good. How are you?
Good, good.
Thanks for letting me come today.
Sure.
Cindy mentioned I could connect to the Zoom meeting to do the presentation. Is that correct? I'm looking at you, Jay, because she also gave me your name.
You can, if you sign into the meeting, she can promote you.
Okay.
Or I have the presentation up, Leslie, I can put it up on the screen if that's more helpful.
You know what? Why don't you just put it up on the screen and I'll let you know. I don't know where Cindy is, but I'll let you know when to forward the slides.
Well, could you please state your name and address, please?
Yes. My name is Leslie Robertson and my address is, do you need physical or mailing?
Physical.
Physical, 44 Idlewild Road in Edwards.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you, Cindy. So I just wanted to come and give you all a brief overview of what we've been up to in the past year, kind of what we're doing in general to help prevent suicide in Eagle County. And again, my name is Leslie Robertson. I'm the Awareness and Brand Manager for Speak Up, Reach Out. Cindy, you can go to the next slide. Our mission, for those of you who don't know, we're a nonprofit whose mission is to prevent suicide in Eagle County through training, awareness, and hope. And we like to say discussing suicide has the power to heal because we have seen that firsthand. We know that talking about it, getting together, sharing our stories, talking about our struggles helps to reduce stigma, helps to reduce shame, which makes it easier for people to reach out for help when they need it. Next slide, please. So just real quickly, I want to give you a brief overview of what we're seeing in Eagle County. To start, approximately 49,000 people die by suicide each year in the US. In Colorado, it's about 1,300. And in Eagle County, we tend to see somewhere in the teens. And as I'm going through these statistics, I just want to acknowledge that each of these numbers is a person who had loved ones and coworkers or kids or family members. And we know that anytime we have a suicide death in our community, because we are a small, well-connected community, that the ripple effects can really be enormous. So just quickly, we tend to see that the demographic with the highest rate of suicide is middle-aged men. That is also what we're seeing on a national level. Men do die by suicide more often than women, but women attempt more often. And part of the thinking behind that, or part of what we think is happening, is men tend to choose more lethal means and women are not. You're also seeing in that last column the number of residents versus non-residents. That is something that we track here in the county. Most of the people that die in our community are from our community, but there are some who are visitors who also die by suicide. A couple other things, the occupations with the highest rates of suicide in our community are construction and hospitality and food and beverage. So that's where we're seeing highest rates, highest risk. That doesn't mean that we're not seeing deaths in all other careers and age groups and things like that. Eagle County does have a higher rate of suicide than the national average, not dramatically higher, but it is higher. And the state of Colorado also has a higher rate than the national average. Colorado is generally in the top 10 states, and those other states also tend to be Western states, just as an FYI. Next slide, please, Cindy. This is just a brief some statistics from the Healthy Kids Colorado survey. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's given every 2 years in the state of Colorado to middle and high school students. It really gives us a good impression of challenges that they're experiencing, behaviors that they're doing, and it's anonymous. And so that tends to lead us to believe that we're getting honest answers because they're not putting their names on it. You all have this in your packets, so hopefully you've read through it or you can read through it in the future. But really what we're seeing is that for middle and high school kids in our county, instances of self-harm, instances of depression, instances of suicidal ideation or suicide attempts are all on the decline, which is really, really great to see. And we hope that that trend continues. Seeing this information for us and for our youth serving nonprofit partners really helps us to assess, is our programming making a difference? Do we need to pivot and address some other issues? So what we're seeing really kind of shows that what we're doing is helping and hopefully will continue to help. And if that changes, we'll pivot as needed. Next slide, please. This is the framework that we work within. All of our work is evidence informed, so we're not just throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping that it works. This is based on the Colorado National Collaborative Model, which is supported by the Office of Suicide Prevention and the CDC. And we can't do all of these things ourselves. Like, we'd love to be able to increase economic stability. We can't do that as an organization, but we always support policies that do that. Almost everything else, we do a lot of work ourselves. And you can do next slide, Cindy. We've been around for 15 years. We celebrated that anniversary last year. And you can see that we've really grown since we started in 2009. We went from almost, well, no full-time staff to first full-time staff in 2017. And then we've got 5.5, we do have a part-time employee now, people working for us in 2025. And we've reached lots and lots of people in our community with education and events and loss support activities and things like that. Next slide, please. So these are our initiatives that really address that framework. We've got a signature event series to provide education, connection, often some sort of entertainment to draw people in. We offer peer support groups. I'll talk about more of that later. We do suicide prevention trainings in workplaces and organizations, as well as the schools. We do that from grades 5 through 12. We also offer professional development for professional or for medical professionals, for behavioral health professionals, so that they are providing suicide safer care. They don't always get that training, so we're here to fill in those gaps. Lethal means safety, I'll get to more in a second. And then we also, when there is a suicide in the community, do what's called postvention, which is that community loss and support, or response and loss support. We work very closely with Your Hope Center to provide support to families, to friends, to also provide support in workplaces if that's needed, in schools, things like that. Next slide, please. These are just an overview of the trainings that we offer. We always offer them for free. Level 1 trainings are 1.5 to 2 hours. Basic intro level, but lots of good information for people who aren't familiar with this topic or what to do or what to look for. Level 2 trainings last about a day, and the level 3 training is our assist training. It's our most advanced. It's 2 days, and we offer that to the public both in the spring and the fall. All of the other trainings that you see, we don't generally offer to the public. Those are organizations that we bring those into, or places of business. Next slide, please. These are just a look at our upcoming events. The one that I do want to talk about for just a second is that dual language comedy show. We're really working hard to increase our presence and outreach to the Latino and Hispanic community. So we've added, we've got 2 events, that and Dia de Muertos, which we've done for the past 3 years. As activities, we also have Spanish language trainings and things like that. We have one Spanish language peer support group. The comedy show on July 10th will be at the Riverwalk Theater in Edwards. And it's really a cool event in that Comedy brings people together. It's entertaining. People want to come to it. There's lots of comedians that have had mental health struggles, and we've got 2 comedians coming to the show in July. One is Spanish speaking, one is English speaking. So we'll have one theater with an English speaking comedian, one theater with a Spanish speaking comedian, and then another theater where we're showing, I think, Inside Out 2, a kids movie. So families that come that don't have kids old enough for comedy can let their kids watch that movie, and it can be a family event for them. So great way to raise awareness, bring people together to have some fun and learn a little bit too. Next slide, please. Language and how we talk about suicide really does make a difference. It's a really easy way to help break down stigmas and reduce shame. We like to use what we call human-centered language and accurate language. So we're saying accurately what's happening and putting the human first. So for instance, if there's a suicide death, it's a suicide. It is not a successful attempt. We don't want to associate death by suicide as a success. Same with, we don't want to call a suicide attempt that doesn't end in death unsuccessful. Particularly for people who are struggling, that can feel like a failure to them. And one thing that we know is that 90% of people who attempt suicide but go on to get the support that they need never attempt again. So that's not unsuccessful. Like, that's a really awesome thing. The biggest one and the hardest habit to break is saying committed suicide. Committed has that connotation of like committing a sin, committing a crime, being committed to an institution. Lots of shame and negativity associated with that. So we're trying to get people to say died by suicide or killed themselves, and trying not to use that word committed. It's really hard. It's so ingrained in our culture and how people talk about it. But really paying attention to what you're saying can be helpful in reducing shame and stigma. Next slide, please. Getting back to lethal means, we do focus quite a bit on firearms, and we focus on that because most of the suicide deaths, more than 50% in Eagle County, have a firearm involved. And firearms are the most lethal means of suicide. That's why you're seeing men die more frequently than women, although that is starting to change a little bit. Women tend to choose other means that are less lethal. It's really important if someone's in suicidal crisis, which is temporary, that we can put time and space between someone and the lethal means that they've chosen. That can include medication, toxic substances, and things like that too. Keeping those things locked up, keeping guns and ammunition separated, loaning your firearm to a family member if you know you're struggling. All of those things can give that suicidal intensity time to pass so that person can get help. So really important, we work with gun shops, we work with ranges, law enforcement, the general public, like you all, just educating and saying, hey, safe storage can save lives, because it can. And there's lots of different ways to go about it, whether it's a gun safe, whether it's keeping guns and ammo separate. We've heard of people who have been struggling themselves putting a picture of their family in front of the gun in the gun safe. So that's the first thing they see. So there's lots of ways to be creative, but anything we can do to really give that person some space to get some help can save lives. So we just try to educate people about that. Next slide, please. And in conjunction with that, we're also educating gun shops and firearm owners and everyone we can about the resources available. Find a support group. Find a therapist, find some other things that you think might help you. Get some family members, friends, your trusted adults, so to speak, involved. So we're really letting people know how they can help, what to look for as well. Next slide. Like I said, we do have peer support programs. We've got 10 right now. We are not, if you did not know already, we're not a crisis entity. Your Hope Center is that crisis support line in our community. And we are also not a behavioral health resource in that we don't have clinicians on staff. Something that we do provide that fits into those two things is peer support. Some people just need a group of like-minded people to connect with. Some people are a little leery of maybe trying therapy. This can be a different option for them. We've got peer leads that lead each group. They all have training in behavioral health support. They all have lived experience in whatever the peer support group is addressing. For instance, we've got a substance abuse support group that is led by a recovering alcoholic. We also have some mental health groups that are led by people who have struggled with mental illness. So they all have that familiarity. So that person doesn't feel like they're alone. They know that peer lead really can identify with them. We've got a men's group. We've got lots of groups. You can find them all on our website, and they're all free. They typically meet either once or twice a month, depending on the group. Next slide, please. And then where to find us. Our website is a great source of information for everything I just talked about, including upcoming activities, events, our trainings, resources for lots of different areas. And then we've got our social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And one of the easiest ways to help support us is follow our accounts, like and comment if you feel so moved, or share information that you see that you think might be helpful. The more you can do that helps us with the algorithm, helps us with our reach to the community. Next slide, please. These are resources, just a few in our community. As I mentioned, Your Hope Center is the local support line, 24/7. 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, another great resource available 24/7. And you can call, chat, text them. They've got veterans support lines, LGBTQ plus support line, specific Spanish support line. So lots of also special or specialized resources available, and they can translate into like hundreds of languages. So if someone needs help in their own language, they can get that support as well. And it's all free and confidential. And then Vail Health Behavioral Health offers lots of behavioral health support programs, resources, therapists, and things like that for anyone who is looking for that kind of support. And one thing I want to mention too is these support lines don't have to be used just by someone in crisis. They are great resources. If you know someone who's struggling and you're not sure how to help them, you can get really great advice as to how to handle situations, what to talk about, talking points, what resources you can point that person towards. So really beneficial in that respect as well. Next slide, please. And I think this is our last one. Yes. So we are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 organization. Everything we do is because of community support, because of grant support, because of individual donor support. That's why we can do the work that we're doing in our community. Every year, we see about 2,500 students. This past school year, we actually saw 3,500 students. And we give them suicide prevention training each year. When we do that, we make them take a quick survey at the end. It's called their exit ticket. If they want to leave class, they have to take the survey. And it asks them if they have a trusted adult and if they are worried about themselves or a friend. If they answer no to trusted adult or say they want to check in with someone because they're worried about themselves or a friend, they get that additional check-in. Generally, in the past with a Your Hope Center counselor, that is now moving in-house in the school district. So in future, it will be with the school district. But they get that support. And we have found some people, we found a 5th grader this past year struggling with suicidal thoughts, having lots of family problems, lots of stress, lots of things like that we were able to get support for. Some students just need one check-in. Some students then get a series of check-ins and get regular support. And so in the 2023-24 school year, 195 students got that additional support. Last year, I think it was 150. We just don't have the confirmed statistics yet. So everyone's support makes a difference. And thank you so much for letting me come in and talk to you and talk to everyone who's online. And I'm happy to answer questions or take comments, anything.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Say thank you. I mean, great service you guys offer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate it. And maybe we can post this on our website just as a emergency link. Should they be there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And I have a question for you all. Like in what we're doing, is there anything we can do to support you? Any resources you would like to see that we're not offering or that we don't have in the community yet? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah. But it's good to have that access to you guys. And how about, I know Vail Health just opened a facility.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all, you have them listed here. How do y'all interface with those guys?
So we interface mostly with their Uyghurs facility, which is the Precourt Healing Center, is the big brand new facility they built that just opened. That is inpatient support. Typically, when someone has been in mental health crisis, and most of them can be resolved without having what they called an M1 hold or a 72-hour hold. Most of them can be resolved without that. But in real crisis situations where someone is deemed dangerous enough to themselves or others and having a real mental health crisis where they're not necessarily being themselves, they are often given an M1 hold, which is a 72-hour mandatory hold in some sort of emergency facility. And before the Precourt Center, anyone in our county that had an M1 hold had to go either to Denver or to Grand Junction. We wanted to try, or Vail Health wanted to really try to keep those people in the county, because the other thing that happens is when someone's released from a Denver hospital or Grand Junction hospital, the support kind of gets a little wonky. The hospital is no longer responsible. Our response up here, like community paramedics and Vail Health Behavioral Health, doesn't always get the information they need from those hospitals to know when that person's released, how to contact them, what sort of support to give them. So it's not continuous care. And people are at most risk of suicide in the 48 or 72 hours after they're released from the hospital like that. So with the Precourt Healing Center here in Eagle County, now it's continuous care. There is no dropping the ball. Someone can stay in the community. There are 12 youth beds and 12 adult beds. So it can also treat youth, which was really missing in our community. And then once they're released, the Uyghur Center, which is more outpatient therapies and things like that, takes over and takes on that case. So we work closely with Vail Health to make sure their clinicians are trained in suicide safer care. In fact, the week that the Precourt Center opened, we did 2 or 3 trainings for them just to make sure that they're fully aware and up to speed of the most current information. So we really work with them as behavioral health resources, even in emergent situations for anyone in our community. And we try to make people know what those resources are so that they can take advantage of them. And we work with their clinicians and also work with Vail Health Behavioral Health in our in-school responses too. So in terms of behavioral health support with therapy and outpatient programs, we're working a lot more closely than we are for the inpatient programs. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Okay, our next presentation is a Bolts Lake update from Eagle River Water and Sanitation.
Yes, Cindy, do you have the presentation?
If you could please state your name and address.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Hildreth. I'm a water resource engineer at the Eagle River Water and Sanitation District, and I'm project manager for the Bolts Lake project here. So I'll wait for.
Yes, I am getting it up.
No problem. Thank you. All right, so this is an update. I think we were here a little over a year ago, presenting the latest event on the project. Next slide, Cindy. So as a refresher, this is an off-channel, 1,200 acre-foot off-channel reservoir south of town, right off of Tigawan Road, near the Eagle Mine site. The district and the authority both purchased the site in 2022. This will provide essential in-basin storage. It's a lot of our storage is out of basin with Wolford Mountain Reservoir and Green Mountain Reservoir. So we only have Eagle Park Reservoir. So this will really enhance our in-stream storage requirements. This will allow us to meet a lot of the in-stream flow requirements in the Eagle River. So when we divert water and we have consumptive use, we have to replace it when it's out of priority. And that usually happens in the late summer and September. So July, August, September is really that risky period that we have to divert the water and then replace it but we only have main source is Eagle Park Reservoir. The development of this reservoir will provide for future land use, not a lot, primarily for workforce housing in partnership with the county. It also benefits some downstream communities because the augmentation will be in basin, not out of basin.
What's really driving this is the long-term climate change impacts we're seeing in the Colorado River, the aerification of the basin. We're seeing declining stream flows over the last 20 years, and we're expecting that to continue. And that's going to really put a stress on our stream flows and what we have to augment. So next slide. So where we are today, in 2022, we completed a feasibility study on the project. We then subsequently purchased the land from the Battle North developers. We completed a preliminary design. Right now, we're wrapping up the 30% design. That should be done this month. Then we'll take that out for pricing. We should have that in the late summer. We have met with numerous stakeholders, the Army Corps, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the U.S. Forest Service. But right now it's looking at our lead federal permit, which, that's probably the biggest, most difficult component of the permitting process we have is the federal government. It's going to be actually a little simpler. It'll be a nationwide permit for our diversion off of the Eagle River, but they will look at the entire project as part of that process. But it also means we likely will not have to go through a full EA, but I'll explain that in a second. Next slide. So when we started the 30% design, we wanted to confirm a lot of assumptions because they had really big impacts on the design and functionality of the reservoir. The first one is we wanted to confirm the diversion of the Bolts Ditch. The head gate is on Forest Service property in the Holy Cross Wilderness. That really complicates a lot of issues because of all the restrictions in the wilderness area, whether it's maintenance, not being able to use mechanized equipment, permitting through the Forest Service, so on and so forth. So we looked at moving it downstream outside of the wilderness. It is there. Ben Bolt put it in there for a reason back in 1890-ish, because it really is the natural location for us to divert to this location. If we moved it downstream, we'd have to bore through that hillside, which would be quite difficult and very expensive. So really, there's some modifications we'll make to the alignment in the future when we get to the design of that ditch. But in reality, the gravity flow off across the creek is pretty much where it is for a reason.
So it will no longer traverse the Highlands parcel?
No, it'll still traverse the Highlands parcel.
Which alternative is the preferred HDD?
It's the one that's the bright green preliminary Bolts Ditch project align.
Mm-hmm.
Right here. So this is the Highlands parcel right here.
In green?
Yes. Yeah, the green line.
Oh, okay.
And which alternative are you looking at right now?
There's two ways to fill the reservoir. So the Bolts Ditch, and so that one, as we mentioned, we're going to stick to it, but that requires the federal government, not even just federal government, congressional and presidential approval for that. So we submitted to Congress the last session. It did not get approved. We did go through the House approval process, but now it's waiting to be attached to another federal legislation to get an omnibus bill passed. We have no idea when that will happen.
Was there any reason it wasn't approved?
Well, I can't speak to how the U.S. Congress operates. It hasn't even been brought up it was approved in the committee. It just hasn't even brought to the floor for the House to vote on yet. So how that works, that's for the DC people. So the root of it is that is going to be a long-term vision. We think keeping that in the project is important. We want redundancy to fill it, but we are focusing our efforts right now on the Eagle River diversion. We feel we can fill the reservoir from the Eagle River with a pump station. We have two locations that we're looking at. They'll be across Tigawon Road, and that's all on private property. So that just requires normal permitting approval. We don't need congressional approval, and that's where the nationwide permit. So we are breaking this off into two components. We're going to have Bolts Lake with the Eagle River diversion, and that's what we're moving on forward currently. And then the Bolts Ditch diversion we want to continue to do, but we have to defer that until this congressional approval thing is taken care of.
And your plan still was just to take water and high spring runoff out of Cross Creek, wasn't it? Just 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, and then the rest of the year when the water's down, you guys would not fill the reservoir?
Absolutely. And that goes with both of the versions. That's the entire function of the reservoir. We'll fill it in the spring runoff when we have water rights and priority. And then we have to, in a dry year, we'd have to discharge the water to augment our diversions and our consumptive use. So yes, it's spring fill, fall empty. Yeah, fall use.
Okay, so now obviously you're aware of the Highlands. That's an important property for us. So we would need to consider the impacts to the marketability of that land, or we're also investigating conservation easements in there, a conservation zone, basically. We're in the process of zoning this property now, so it'd be helpful if there was some communication with our planning department, and when they're doing that. I noticed this and sent it over to Scott, and he had some concerns, and so just want to keep in touch with you on that, because some of these alternatives, basically, kind of, we have two parcels up in the Highlands on each side of Bolts Ditch as it is now. Like I was concerned because of the preferred HDD alignment. That's because that split the parcel 2 right down the middle, pretty much vertically.
Yeah, the HD, I don't even know how much that one would, outside of the cost, if it wasn't ridiculously expensive. I don't even know if that would impact the Highlands parcel too much. But the Bolts Ditch, I know for sure it does cross the Highlands parcel. We have it. It was part of the purchase agreement that we have an easement for it. And of course, when we move forward with that, we would work with the town and the town staff, of course.
Do you know how wide that easement is?
It's a right of way. It's owned in fee simple by the district.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that was one of the concerns, Justin, is the optimized Bolts Ditch pipe kind of takes off from that and splits parcel 2 of the Highlands. So because of that right of way, we have parcel 1 and parcel 2, total about 55 acres. And so I think that was just the concern, is if it stays in the existing ditch, I don't know that there's an issue. If it comes outside of that and starts to bifurcate parcel 2, then we just need to understand, is that, an excavation, is that bored, up piped underneath? Those types of things would affect conservation easement values for a baseline study, as well as the marketability of those parcels.
Okay.
So just need to, I'm available anytime you want to.
Yeah, we can get together and we can talk about it. Because we kind of haven't taken the design any further than pretty much what you see today at this time. So
really appreciate seeing it now, because it's good timing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
And then one other question on the pump station at the lower end of the OTP. That's land we haven't decided what we're going to do with it. It's going to get remediated, as you know, from once y'all start building. But it looks like it would be pumped into the middle of what we've been assuming was our recreation area on the lake. And I'm wondering, how would that extend further down into the lake as you're pumping water into it, or are you looking at a surface feed, or what's that going to look like?
In terms of how it entered the lakes, we haven't gotten that far in the design. Right now we're just fine tuning the alignment. I actually have the next slide to talk more about the Eagle River, because that so I guess next slide, please. So this kind of goes in what you're saying. Right now, there's 2 options. This summer, we need to do a survey of the actual river channel. We call it a bathymetric survey. And then we can really look at the topography, the geology, and everything of the stream to make a more fine-tuned recommendation on where it would happen. My personal gut is it's going to be the one closer to Highway 24, the one to the right. Probably not the one that you're referring to, closer to the OTP, but that won't be finalized until probably the end of the year. But any alignment, they drew it through the OTP. More than likely, we would route it around it, because we do not want to mess with the OTP itself. We don't want to get involved with the EPA in terms of digging soils that may or may not be contaminated. So there would be, if that became a preferred alternative, there'd be a lot more work that would have to be done with that. And we want to simplify the permitting process, and that would be avoiding the OPP than rather going through it.
Okay.
But more than likely, it would be my gut is it'll be at the lower one. You can kind of see it from Tigawon Road when you can kind of look around. It's the area where a lot of people park. There's that old white building right there. A lot of people parked, I think, to go fishing, and and you can see like the river right there where it would go.
Okay.
So, next slide. Cindy, next slide. Cindy, next slide.
Hello.
Hello.
Cindy.
I don't know what happened. Sorry, the Zoom cut out. Let me, I'm like, I was advancing the slides. Give me 1 second. Which one should I go back to?
The one we were just at the Eagle River, then we'll click to the next one, and there's a couple of photos of what a diversion looks like on the river. There's like 3 color photos.
Page 172 of the packet.
Sorry, I'm on his presentation, so that doesn't help.
Right there, right there. Yeah. So wherever the exact location is finalized, it'll be, those of you who've been on the river have probably seen other diversions on the river. There'll be some boulder work in the river. It'll probably be like a pie shape rock format to direct the water into the diversion. It'll need a Army Corps nationwide permit, which also will have to be reviewed by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife for fish passage, whatever is appropriate. So we'll work through all those issues with the next phase of the design and through the permit process. I don't know how big or what they'll require, but we'll accommodate whatever Colorado Parks and Wildlife requires. Next slide. So in terms of the reservoir, we've made some modifications to what you saw before. If you remember, we've really smoothed out the edges. It's a little more rounded. And that really has to do with constructability with the equipment. Yeah, it really has to do with that. The advantage of that, though, is a little larger footprint, which means we can raise the bottom, which helps a lot with the groundwater issues. If there's groundwater in the area, if it comes up in the spring, it can buckle the liner and destroy it, which obviously would be problematic. Also, we want to make sure we're not impacting the groundwater because our proximity to the consolidated tailings pile. We want to make sure we're not adding water to the groundwater table, which would then impact the tailings pile. So we're well aware of those issues, and we're going to make sure that however the design is, that we're not impacting those 2 entities. So with that, next slide, please. So where we're at with the liner, we have looked at numerous liner options. They have a large impact on the constructability. We were originally leaning towards a clay liner system. We have a source of clay in Wolcott. But after doing some investigation, it looks like it'll be considerably more expensive than doing a geomembrane or an asphalt liner system. The hydraulic asphalt concrete system is what the engineers call it, is looking like to be the most favorable, most cost-effective for the long-term maintenance. For those who've been up in Homestake Reservoir, that is what is done there. The liner really, it's cheaper capital cost and long-term O&M. It'll last longer. The maintenance is a lot more simpler than it is with the clay liner system or a geomembrane system. So it has a lot of help. We went through this whole process, and that's where we are today. One of the big advantages I think you guys will be concerned about is it dramatically reduces the amount of truckloads that we'll have through town. It'll probably be 30% of the truckloads, because bringing all that clay in, we'd have to put 2 feet of clay underneath the entire structure. Because that's one of the things with this site, the soils are very porous, so we have to line the entire structure, or else it won't hold water. So that
would be like basically a huge swimming pool.
Yes, basically a huge, really big swimming pool.
Yeah, that sounds optimal for the community as well.
Yeah. And all the easier construction makes it easier for everybody, but also helps with costs. So, next slide. So the dam embankment, we're hoping we're going to be able to use soils available at the site. Because we have to excavate about 20 feet down. We're hoping we can reuse those into the dam liner. We're going to be out there this summer. We'll be doing more excavation, potholes, test holes, boreholes to confirm that we can reuse those soils. That's a pretty big deal for the constructability and the cost of it. So we'll have the embankment, and then we'll have the liner system, which will be the asphalt and a drainage layer. And also by state regs, we'll have to have a drainage layer underneath the dam, so then we don't have any moisture build up within the structure itself, which could cause damage and long-term. It helps the long-term durability, leaking, and the structural stability of the dam to keep the water out.
So does the liner do the entire surface of the reservoir?
Yes. Yeah, so even on the entire surface will need to be lined. Yes.
It's a lot of concrete.
Yes, we'll probably have to. Although we don't have a contractor on board. More than likely, we'll have to have like an asphalt plant, portable asphalt plant there, because it is a specialized mix. It is not the same asphalt you see on a road. It's totally different, and so it's a bit of a unique specialty. But yeah. Next slide, please. I guess I kind of hit most of the liner alternative. It's being used more and more often. It's common in Europe. The contractor who does it in the United States is actually a European contractor with a North American crew. It does require some specialized equipment, but it is proven. It allows some advantages in terms of that it's flexible, it's easy to inspect. It doesn't require covered material like a clay liner system would to protect from animals. So it's essentially 3 inches of this waterproof asphalt, a 3-inch drainage layer, and then we'll have about roughly a foot of drain gravel, and then you'd have the actual dam structure itself. So, next slide. And here's some photos of what they did up at Homestake for those who haven't been up there when they did the construction up there. But it's pretty specialized, but not that unique. But it does take some complexity dealing with the slopes and everything that you have on the embankments. Next slide. So we have done the environmental studies. What we found is there are federally regulated wetlands, like where the Eagle River diversion will be located. And also for the Cross Creek diversion, when we get the authorization to do that work. So then we'll have to get a nationwide permit for that. We've been tracking the state. I don't know if you're aware, but the state is implementing their own wetlands impacts. So we're going to have ones that are federally regulated. More than likely, we're going to have some wetlands that are going to be state regulated also that we'll have to mitigate. Of course, we'll comply with all the new state laws, because they'll be completed probably the end of this year, more than likely early next year. You know how those things go. But that'll be well before we'll be breaking ground on this reservoir. So we'll have to comply with all the state mitigation requirements for wetlands. The studies did not find any endangered or sensitive species on site. And then in terms of cultural resources, there are some historical features on the property, none that are listed, but they are historical, and they recommended that we document them and then give those documents to the local historic preservation agency or the library. That's photos, videos, kind of explains where they were, what they did before because like most of the trestle will probably have to be torn down.
Could you give those same resources we have a historic preservation commission?
Oh, of course,
just
absolutely.
for documentation and archival sources. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And next slide. And then, so where we are at today, we're finishing up the 30%. We're going to go immediately into the 60% design. That'll get finished sometime next year. That 60% design will involve more of those geotechnical studies to confirm that we can reuse some of the soils for the construction of the dam itself. We'll have to survey the river. And also now that we have a good idea what this looks like, we'll start discussions with the state engineers, dam safety inspector's office, and make sure we we're on the same page with the state permitting for the dam structure. There's actually 2 dams, but we'll make sure we're all on the same page. So when we get to final design, we're pretty well prepared. The nationwide permit from the Army Corps for the Eagle River diversion. They'll also review the cultural resources and the water resources studies that we did for the entire reservoir as part of that review process. That'll defer to the EA process for the actual Cross Creek, the Bolts Ditch and the Bolts diversion off of Cross Creek, because those will be on Forest Service property. A lot of that will be, not all of it, of course, but a lot of it. So we'll have to do the full EA process likely for that. And also we're going to procure a construction manager this fall. That'll help us a lot with constructability review. There's a lot of sequencing and logistics that go into the construction of this and some unique materials. So getting a contractor on board will help us really get more accurate pricing on the front end and get a better idea of the duration of construction. And a lot of logistical challenges because of processing of the material, storing the material for the dam structure and all that. So we'll have that, and the cost estimate that we'll get from the construction manager next year will be a lot more accurate than what the engineers come up with. And next slide. And then finally, we hope to wrap up in 2027 to go in construction documents. We'll be back with you for the 1041. I know also our agreement requires us to submit any federal permitting requirements. So when we apply for the nationwide, we'll also send that to you also for review and input. Our goal is to get it shovel ready in 2028, and then we can figure out how to pay for it. That's for other people to worry about. But a project of this scale is obviously, right now estimates are $100 to $120 million. It's quite expensive. In terms of federal funding, it's limited right now. There's one process that may give us, we may be able to get 25% funding to the small storage projects, but that's about it, more likely. So it's going to be a lot of loans and bonding to fund this project and a large impact to our ratepayers. So we have a lot of work to figure out on that side. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the Bolts Ditch is contingent on the U.S. Congress and their approval. So whenever that happens, we'll be back finalizing those designs.
Okay. Any idea, assuming you start on Bolts Ditch on 2028, how long of a period would the construction last?
I'm estimating personally 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5. Okay.
I'm not sure yet. But we're realizing there's a lot of logistical challenges because the dam requires specific materials, gravels that are not processed in the valley that we may have to get trucked from Denver. And so there's a lot of things. That's why we want to get this construction manager on board and figure out the sequencing, but 3 to 5 year construction period.
Okay. Any questions for Justin?
Yeah, could you help me understand? Maybe it would be helpful to go back to the reservoir configuration slide. Cindy, that's like 5 back, I think. It's got that kind of map of the circle. Yeah,
right there. Yep.
So what portions of this map will look like the photos that you showed of the black asphalt extending?
It would be the inside.
It's all inside. Okay.
Yeah. So the outside would be grass material on this, probably similar to what you see on the consolidated tailings file right now. It'll be native grass. You're not allowed to have trees or vegetation with large root systems because that can get in the structure. So you have shallow, grasses on the surface that'll face the exterior. So I'll just point to it. So here's Highway 24. This will be the dam. So this side is what you'll see from Highway 24. The entire inside, you'll see the asphalt. And then we have a small little dam on the south side where probably the recreational access will be, because that'll be the easiest place to get to it.
Will that be asphalt as well, though?
The inside of it will be asphalt. The exterior will not.
Okay, so there's no native vegetation, shade, anything. The whole slope will look like the black.
Yes.
Asphalt.
Yes. And then we'll be back. Also, another thing we have to work with you on is what those recreational improvements will look like. We'll probably be back pretty soon because that'll probably be part of our 60% design, because we're supposed to, with agreements, we're supposed to partner with you to figure out what they'll look like and all that. But inside the reservoir itself, there won't be like in Avon. There's a fishing dock. There won't be a fishing dock. Well, I guess there could be if you pay for it, but the district is not. There won't be any like a. They have that deck that overlooks the lake where they do parties and stuff. I don't see us having any structures like that. The outside, we have a lot of flexibility on what we can do in terms of that.
About how much do you anticipate the lake will go up and down in terms of?
That all depends on the year.
But give me just a rough idea.
On a wet year, probably next to nothing. On like a 2002 year, it's probably going to mostly be dry.
So it will be this big black hole.
On a dry year, yes.
Will there need to be like fencing, like for wildlife or something? Like are they going to be able to they're going to see this thing and be like, I want to drink. Are they going to be able to get down there? Are they going to fall in and not be able to get out?
Well, in terms of like a deer or a moose or something, I mean, these are going to be 2-to-1 to 3-to-1 slopes. They're not cliffs. So wildlife of that sort can navigate those type of slopes really easily. So I don't see that as much of a problem in terms of wildlife.
Is the black color an issue?
In terms of wildlife, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question.
And it's just in terms of environmental impact as opposed to a lighter color.
Do you have any idea what life expectancy of this is? I know it isn't even built yet. I'm already asking how long it's going to last.
Well, that's our question. That for us, that is a big question. We do ask this, and easily 50 years, comfortably 50 years. So we'll have, although it's a different type of asphalt than you see on a road, but it has some similarities that it will degrade with UV exposure. So if it's lowered a lot, we'll have increased degradation. Now, you don't have to replace it. We just have to go back and reseal it. So there could be depending on what the environment does, there could be a 10 or 20 year cycle where they come out and reseal the asphalt, especially the top half, that we most likely be exposed pretty frequently. The bottom half probably won't be exposed that frequently because we probably will, hopefully we don't have too many 2002 droughts. But, if you have a normal year, it'll definitely go up and down 10, 20 feet. So the top half will definitely probably have to
need more maintenance on it than the lower part.
Yeah.
Does it get pretty hot? I mean, black asphalt exposed to sun, man, if, whatever's above the water line, be kind of hot.
Probably, I would think because it's going to be the same color, I would expect it to have the same reaction to temperature.
For obviously, you mentioned this would be more like a 60% design phase, but as far as like public access and that sort of thing, is there any plans for like a beach or something kind of similar to Avon?
No, but in terms of public access, that's what I was saying. We're going to come back. Our agreements mention recreation access, and we're supposed to partner with the town and what that will look like. So, in terms of a ramp going up and down, because I anticipate people are going to want to. We're not going to allow motorboats. Of course, it's not big enough, frankly, for a motorboat regardless. But say paddleboard, a stand-up paddleboard, floating type devices, people are going to want to walk down, and we're going to have to design it because it's going to fluctuate. It's not like Avon where it's pretty level, only fluctuates 2 feet. It's going to be a much different system. So we'll have to anticipate that through the next phase of the development.
I mean, is it steep enough for a stairway?
We could look at a stairway. We'll have to work on that because I assume you're going to be dragging like a paddleboard or a stand-up paddleboard or some sort. I don't know if you'd want a stairway. We may want to have an area that's a little not 3-to-1. Maybe it's 10-to-1. 10% grade, which is like a steep road going down into it. And so we'll have to work through those issues, those design features.
When is the right time to start working on the design?
For these features, we'll probably be with you. It'll probably be I guess probably September. It'll be this year.
Okay.
So as you transition to 60% design, you're getting more and more concrete about where your facilities are going to be. Your maps are showing facilities outside of rights of way and easements that don't exist on town property. And that includes the OTP that the town has a purchase option on. So if you are really considering going to 60% plans for facilities outside of the previously designated rights of way, you need to come in and start talking to the town.
Mm-hmm.
The other item on your list that you need to add contemporaneous with the 1031 regulatory review for what's called the processing parcel. So that's the parcel to the south and west of the reservoir. It's owned by Battle Mountain. I believe part of the agreement allows that to be used for equipment staging and material processing. There is a separate zoning procedure that will have to be followed before that can be used. So you need to add that to your list of requirements.
Yeah, and the agreements contemplate moving a lot of these lines, but yes, of course. I mean, they were always anticipated that they were preliminary in nature, but yes, of course. Because even right now, I don't think we have, this is 30%. Things will change again with 60%. We, of course, don't have the final layout at this point, but yeah, of course.
Anything else for Justin? No?
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good information. Okay. Next, we have our business items, resolution 22, series 2025. A resolution awarding the Norman Avenue paving contract.
Yes, so we did receive one sole bid on Norman Avenue. The bid was for $63,019.30. It's $7,528.30 over what was budgeted. When I had a discussion with Jay, he thought that there was funds that would cover that extra amount. And the bid, sole bid, is in the packet.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. Well, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22, series 2025. A resolution awarding the Norman Avenue paving project to 360 Civil per the submitted bid.
Second. Motion by Gusty, second by Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is passed. Okay, next we have discussion items. Update on infrastructure project statuses to include Taylor Avenue. And Jeff Spinell, our civil engineer, is with us.
At the last council meeting, we were asked to come back with some cost estimates, excuse me. And so we used the unit prices for what's Minturn North is paying for the Minturn Road offsite construction. We prepared three estimates, and again, these are based on very minimal engineering. The first estimate we did was for an asphalt street with 4-foot concrete pan on the east side of the road. Our estimate for that was just over $1 million, $1,030,000. The second estimate we did was for no pan. It was just simply replacing the asphalt road in place where it is now. The cost for that was $850,000. And the third estimate was to use a 4-foot asphalt pan on the east side of the road, and that was $960,000. And so all three of those numbers are over the $750,000 budget that the town had originally set for the project. So we're looking for direction as to where to go with it.
Okay, so we have three options we're looking at now. And the best scenario is we're over budget by 100 grand, and the worst scenario is we're over about $500,000, looks like. No, $250,000.
Yeah, 300.
250,000. Okay. Anyone want to speak up? Which one they want to do?
I don't know. I just know that, if we keep going over budget on all the projects for long, we're not gonna have money to pay for any projects. I'd be in favor of going the avenue of the 850 and seeing if there's anything we can save off of that as far as getting it down closer to the 750. Definitely not in favor of doing the pans. I know it's probably the best way, but that's just too expensive and we don't have that type of money.
We have some value engineering ideas that we think we can incorporate to save some money during the design, but
okay.
You're
You're trying to find out which direction to go. Yeah. Honestly, I'm in favor of the 850 one.
I feel the same way, but I have a question. If we don't do the pan, does that mean that the water just kind of?
It was a sheet flow across the road, yes. We will put, the estimate includes 5 culvert crossings at this point. So there would be, where there's concentrated flow coming down off the hillside, we would put in an inlet and take it, a pipe across the road, under the road.
So it would still be better than what we've got now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is it cheaper to do just dips than culverts under the road?
That's a possibility, but at the last meeting, the council was not very much in favor of those dips.
I'm actually remembering the opposite. I thought we were in favor of that
Well, we were one time, but then it was kind of messes with the snow plowing and stuff.
Right.
So
I think residents on Taylor really like the idea to slow cars down though. It's like a reverse speed.
The residents wanted it, but the council pushed back on it and said they did not. For snow plowing, snow removal in particular was the reason.
I don't agree with that. I don't feel that's.
We're still going to have some culverts going under the road. There's some concentrated flows that need to go under.
Would you guess that it would save $100,000 if we went with the dips?
Not just doing that. It'll take some other things too.
What about cutting it at right before the townhome entrance? Because there's been a lot of talk in the future about redoing from there down in the intersection of Taylor Minturn. And so could we start the project right before that entrance, knowing that if we redo anything below that in the future, we probably have to tear that all back up and realign?
I guess I would remind you that Minturn North did some extensive studies of trying to straighten out that section of Taylor Avenue for that intersection. And it required on the order of 5 or 6 feet of fill at that intersection, raising it that much. Lowering that little bit of a hump at, I think it's Lions Lane that goes up into the townhomes. The problem with that is it will steepen that Lions Lane considerably. And there's already problems with that in the wintertime with cars sliding through the intersection, is my understanding. So, I mean, we can shorten the length of the road in order to get it in budget. That's certainly something we could consider. I just caution you for counting on being able to redo that intersection. It's going to be a very expensive thing. And raising that intersection, if you think about it, it's going to have to go back downhill, and you've got driveways going into those townhomes. And I'm not sure we can, the road can get down fast enough that it's not going to be higher than those driveways.
One area I noticed over there when I went and looked was right where you're talking about, where you go up Lions Lane and then you head north. There's a low spot kind of in the road. Was there anything put in there for kind of raising that, or just still going to have the low spot there?
we looked at it, it's not that bad a grade, so no, we didn't put anything in there, particularly when we were already getting close to the budget. We didn't put any fill in there.
Okay.
I mean, it just seems to me too that like the worst part of Taylor Street, I don't like this. Our two council members who live on Taylor
I
Street
know,
aren't
I
here.
was thinking that. They're both
So like,
absent.
I personally don't have like you know, I feel like I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but like, it seems like the worst part of the road is above the Minturn North, the Townhome turn-in. I think that's where all the potholes and the nastiness is, like up on that section, and then below, it doesn't. It's just like my memory. I don't know. It seems like it's actually okay coming down. It's been patched a few times coming down to the intersection. Like that doesn't seem like as bad, but is that the case?
Are you talking up towards Game Creek? Isn't too
No,
bad?
I'm saying like down. So the where it connects and then goes up from Minturn Road, and then makes like a hard right by the driveways. It goes uphill. It goes past the main turn-in for the townhomes, and then it kind of veers left again. It seems like all the bad part of the road is on that section all the way back towards the road. And that's like,
It's certainly the worst part of the road is above Lions Lane.
so like
North
would it be that bad if we could stay in budget to cut it from there and just address the worst part of this road and address the drainage and get all this done and make probably the majority of those people happy? Yeah, like I haven't heard anything from the townhome folks saying that they're, other than they don't like the alignment and steepness, which we can't address, but you know, saying that like the road's in bad shape from going down, because it's not really.
Well, that would make sense too, because we don't know what we're going to do with the parcel land next to it that we own. And that could impact what happens to that part of the road.
I like that idea. You don't even know if that's.
I'd feel more comfortable if we could delay this decision to when the two council people from Minturn North would be here.
Would be convenient.
Well, we'd certainly be glad to do another open house and meet with them once we get, if the direction is we're not going to put in the pan on the side of the road, we could get the preliminary design done and then meet with them, get their input, and then come back to council with some final recommendations.
I think that would be a great idea.
Is that gonna mess up our timing as far as getting the paver that's over there that's gonna do County Road to try to do this?
Well, probably, but I don't know that there's a great deal of savings in trying to tie with them.
Okay. I was
Based
thinking
on the
set up,
town's
maybe it'd save us some.
procurement policy, we have to put that out to bid for 30 days anyway, so we're going to be pushing it further and further in. And the other thing is that company picked up plans for Norman and talked to us about it, but then never submitted a bid.
Okay.
So they may just be overwhelmed. And part of the problem we're running into, even with 360 on these things, I had to twist their arm a bit to get them to put in a bid because they're overloaded as well. And what I agreed to was that we would put off the work until late in the summer so that they could fit it in.
So you'll also talk to the other council members about shortening the part of the road that we improved.
So we'll, if you want to work on the numbers again for the shortened version, and I'd like to go up there and walk it around a little bit myself in the coming week. But let's move forward with that. And
Katie actually has, she did a video. She drove down the road with her cell phone on, and that's actually a pretty telling videotape that you might want to take a look at.
And Rob has it.
Yeah, you gave it. So I guess I wonder why the downhill side is so in such better shape, because it really is not terrible.
Well, I'm curious of if there was some road work done when the Minturn townhomes were built.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet there was.
Yeah.
Well, they've also patched those driveways pretty often, and they patched a big pothole that was happening and regraded a little bit.
They might, yeah,
Right at that corner.
because there are a lot of patches in the road out there, particularly the Minturn Road section of it. Has been patched.
Oh, there was a swim pool there for a while that they did a pretty good job.
Still
getting rid
is.
of.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the drawing board and see if we can make some savings there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Jeff. I appreciate it. Okay. Next, we have discussion regarding the Cemetery Road pedestrian crossing project cost.
Yes, so we do have a sole bid for the cemetery crossing that's on US 24. And from my understanding, I've not seen that there is a permit that CDOT has approved for that crossing. The budget is 55,000. The sole bid was 72,000. It's $17,000 over. We did talk to 360 Civil last week. They have some ideas of how they could cut some of their costs, and I'll let Jeff maybe interject.
Excuse me. We don't have definitive numbers from them yet, but the approach that I had was they had bid the Main Street project, the Norman, and the crossing. And I told them that if we awarded all three projects to them, that they need to go back and look at their general conditions and sharpen their pencil. They were doing that, and then we're also looking at just some potential savings for changing the design a little bit.
What is involved in doing the crossing?
There are the crossing that's down in the 100 block, the diagonal one by the Anglers building.
Yeah.
It would be very similar to that. There'd be two light poles just like that. One is going to be at they'd be on either side of the highway, right at Cemetery Road. And then the highway department's going to require us to put in inset crosswalks where we have to grind out the pavement and put thermoplastic down for the crosswalk markings. And that's the bulk of it, of those two things.
Because we have, I mean, in the pavement there's already a cut for where a crosswalk could happen. Are we going to utilize that as well, or?
The cut, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so on the sidewalks at the cemetery bridge, there's like already a dip down to the road level of where a theoretical.
Well, that is where the crossing would go, but what they're talking about is the asphalt in the highway itself. That the pavement marking is going to have to be set below the surface of the asphalt.
Okay, so I thought you were talking about the concrete part.
What's the purpose of that?
Reflective.
Lasts longer in theory.
Okay. Like the snow plows would tear it up.
Well, the snow plows won't hit it if it's inset.
Mm-hmm. So it's not like you have a 1 inch.
It's not that deep, but yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
This intersection is very popular, so
yeah.
I mean, if we get close to it, we have to do it on this one before somebody gets hurt there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the only style that CDOT allows? Is the two signs? Like, there's no.
I did get approached by another manufacturer of light poles, and since we already had the notice to proceed from CDOT with the TAPCO lights, and that's what the town already has, at the other intersection, I didn't get a bid from them, but I certainly could call them and ask them for a bid. I will tell you this though, before spending any time on that, the contractor got a better price on the light poles than we did for the town. Considerably better price.
Yeah, I just wanted, I've seen all sorts of different ways to light up crosswalks, and I think that one kind of works. You still wouldn't just press it and then walk into the street on that side of town but down there, you're in the middle of the quarter mile with no parking on the side of the road and people like that's our 8 mile. Like, people are going 1,000,000 miles an hour on that. And I worry about just the little blinking sign, is that really gonna, I guess we'll see.
Well, I think they're better than just putting up a sign.
Totally, yeah. I've seen all sorts of different crosswalks as go through cities and stuff, but I know the state highway has different signage requirements that they allow and don't allow. But I just wondered if they had any ideas.
No, this is exactly CDOT standards as well, what this is designed to.
Okay. So yeah, make sure they sharpen their pencils really well.
I don't think we're going to find getting it back down to $50,000. We'll do what we can.
Yeah, I understand.
And the savings may be a combination of all 3 projects, not just the one.
Right.
Good point.
Money's all coming from the same pot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jeff, if you want to ask your contact for a bid, just to see if it comes in.
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
If you want to ask your contact for a bid for the, there's just an alternative plan just in case it is cheaper.
For an alternative, you said that you had another.
Oh, yeah,
alternative.
another manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can call them back and I'm sure they would provide a bid to us right away.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Next, we have discussion about Little Beach Park improvements and the next steps.
So, I found out about the Myers Barn moving on the 5th of May, and I have been involved in other historic moving other buildings, and I'm a little bit preferential. I love to see that moved. But I think there's a lot of things at Little Beach Park that have to be dealt with. So you have a favorable, you may have gotten denied on the last grant proposal to GOCO, but you have a favorable letter that says you just need to be more shovel ready for the project at Little Beach Park for some of the recreational amenities that you wanted to do. So on the 11th of September is when GOCO's application is due. They're going to there's also kind of a draft that they would like to see. They probably like to see that, around the end of July, 1st of August. However, they said that they would extend that a little bit because you do have a favorable, the last time, you got denied, you still have a favorable letter from GOCO. And I did provide that to Rob as well. So he's got that in a stack of stuff. The other grant that we would like to submit is the T-Mobile grant. That's $50,000 for a playground. That's due the 30th of September. So we actually had a discussion, Madison, Cindy, myself, and Rob sat down last week and went over all of I kind of have this big splattergram on the whiteboard to talk about what's all going on at Little Beach Park. And you've got a retaining wall and a service road design that's been reviewed. I think Scott's got that review. Rob probably needs a chance to review that as well. That won't be until late August or September when they're doing that. In the meantime, you're probably going to demo the playground. So the playground does have a home. Jeff Armistead, we actually went out for 2 weeks advertising if anybody would like to take that. Jeff was the only one that had interest in taking the playground. He said he also has a way to move it and a place to put it for a while until he used it on some of his own places. In addition, there's a Vicki Golden's memorial rock from her children's. She died early of cancer. So we're going to make sure that we try to preserve that rock, or at least if it does get moved, it's moved, with care. And a lot of things going on. So I really kind of think that I'm going to pass this ball to Rob. And I think Scott, having the opportunity to kind of bring town staff into it, I think there's a lot of things going on with Little Beach Park. But
let me make a few comments about the Myers Barn, because I think that may be problematic. It's not as you know, they raised the funds to move it, but it involves taking it up. Their research was that they would have to take apart each log and number them and then reinstall them. And that was all arranged to happen this year. And the person who was going to do that may not be available at some later date. The homeowner is also very anxious to get that structure removed from his property. He made the largest donation for the removal of that property. And I think there's a lot of frustration that it has to, there has to be so much planning done as to where it can be sited. We've got that big parking area and it seems like it's fairly obvious. And I don't know that we need a big grant to tell, a planning grant to tell us that. But if we delay too much, I think the whole project may fall apart and they'll refund the donations.
Well, I really appreciate that. I have been in communication with Ken Halliday and Woody as well. And I understand even the schedule I had it being moved this year. But keep in mind that it's going to take some time for Rob to kind of get up to speed on all the little pieces. Hopefully, I've left the pieces as organized as possible for him to take on. I think it's possible to be moved this year. I don't think that's an issue, but I want to make sure that Rob's kind of got all the information that he's going to need for that. So I really respect the fact that they'd like to get it moved this year.
I will just say one quick thing. We did have that barn and Ken and I don't think Woody was able to join us at the Planning Commission last week to present the plans. We talked about some of the challenges from a timing standpoint, but also I think my interaction again kind of at the last, not the last minute, but recently I wasn't involved over the last year or so. Getting to that Planning Commission meeting, having conversations with Ken and with Woody, I think we're all on the same page about the volunteer specialist who's going to come help deconstruct, catalog, and then, if need be, store that structure for a temporary amount of time. And
I'm not sure that storage is, from what I've heard, a really feasible alternative. I think that's the problem.
It's not exactly the response I got from Ken.
I think that
yeah,
that might not be.
Was it going to go in your garage?
Well, the wood changes too, and what they're trying to do is technically so difficult to start with.
Sure.
It's really, I don't know. I can't speak for Ken, but I think people feel kind of backed into a corner.
I came away from that, and hopefully Ken and Woody did too, with the feeling that we're all kind of rowing in the same direction with an intent to get this done.
Yes.
If we can this year. There's some timing issues, irregardless of grants, that have to do with impacting the events going on at Little Beach Park. And again, that kind of pushes us into August, September when things start to wind down. And so there might be a natural opening there.
How long was the owner willing to leave it there for?
The information I got from Ken was that he does not feel that the owner is pressing, certainly sooner rather than later. But that, if it happens in July versus September, that's not a deal killer. Right. So
kind of wants it done this year though.
Yeah, I think that's the intent. Yeah.
Okay. Katie, question on the T-Mobile grant for the playground. Do we have plans for the playground equipment, or would that grant?
So in our discussion with GoCo, you can go out for a RFP to find a consultant to do a design for the playground. So let's just hypothetically say you spend $100,000. The $100,000 that you spend on a consultant to design the playground, probably some of the other recreational facilities, can be used as leverage as part of your match grant to actually implement the recreational facilities and the playground. And that includes T-Mobile. Both of them want shovel-ready projects, which shovel-ready could be May of next year, May or June of next year.
Yeah, because I'd imagine some parents in the community would like some input on.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what your consultant would work with them.
And we brought in, I know originally when that master plan was done, maybe they came in, but just on the heels of our stream setback discussions, that access, and I'm down there a lot. That access is pretty messy. Has the Eagle River Coalition or any other referral agency given us any feedback on what they'd like, ideally to be done around river access and cleaning up that?
So I'd hope your consultant would work with all the entities that would be affected in that. That would be their goal, and of course you'd pass that on to Rob. Right now you have a plan with Jeff. Jeff's doing the plans under review for the service road and the retaining wall. Part of the goal is to have that for a service road only, not parking, and parking would be up at the top with a better ADA access at some point next year. Well, that'd be the hopeful, so that you could get down to that park much easier.
Katie, should they know about the playground has to come down in order to build the service road? That has to be part, it's in the way.
Yeah. And also on the playground, that reminded me, somebody said to me the other day, does it make sense to store that playground for any particular, like we've got, or any parts of it for our triangle parcel, or it's just in that bad shape and it's not sure?
I think Jeff's already.
I'm not an expert, but I don't think, having purchased several playgrounds in the last few years, I don't think that meets current safety standards.
That's a pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
So we've got free labor to take it away, so
it needs a
sense of ruining that opportunity.
If you hire a park consultant, they certainly would know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I sent this to somebody that Denver just reopened their 16th Street, and one of the little pocket parks in there got a lot of attention, and it's literally just 3 gigantic trout wearing cowboy hats, and there's like kids are just like crawling on these things, and it's like, it's getting all this recognition. Precedent seems like pretty cool. So yeah, it'll be a fun time to go talk to the community and see what we come up with.
Cool. Anything else from the board on that? Okay. How about future agenda items? Let's see. Okay, we've got the reappoint the DDA members to stagger the terms there. Intern DDA IGA. So you know what that is?
That is, city will be bringing that to you. We've reviewed it for her, and it would be to formalize that the town would allow Cindy to include in her scope of duties acting as kind of the administrative functionary for the DDA, as well as a request from the DDA for a small grant. So they have some operating money.
So Cindy's got plenty of
Currently have nothing.
Okay.
I wanted to clarify, you did put this in there, thank you, but the traffic calming, that was the request from last week, and that's not Highway 24. That's just a discussion of kind of temporary like planters and things like that we could look at on town side streets and things, and the current discussion of the current speed bumps and things like that. I'm hearing feedback, and I've also brought over the last couple of years, like photos from Crested Butte, things like that, where they use planter boxes with speed limits and things like that to kind of make the streets look cool, but also kind of pinch the streets in places where they want people to slow down and things like that. So I think that would be a cool thing to talk about.
If this is going back to the bulb outs on the highway, that
This
was
is
all.
completely aside from 24.
I was going to say,
No
Michelle put
24.
that squarely back in CDOT's court.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to think about traffic calming and just, in general street design in two buckets, like CDOT and not CDOT.
And just so Rob can follow the discussion, we had temporary bulb outs along Highway 24 through town, and we had 120 people in here.
I would say it worked really well because it got people in, it got people talking about it, and we kind of fell off. And I think we shouldn't be worried about trying things because of it. I think we should be encouraged that we should try things. And we followed CDOT's recommendations to a T, and that didn't work perfectly for our community. But
But we don't have those problems with Pine Street and Boulder Street, where we have a lot more freedom.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And
what we can do.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll bring up probably the best traffic calming is having cops here. I mean, we technically don't have cops here. We had 2 assigned to the town, and now we don't have any. And supposedly the county's making rounds through here, but it's very slim. We're out a lot. We walk a lot. I don't see cops. So I think that's a big key to traffic calming is having people know that cops are here so that they'll slow down. If they know that they're not here, they were having a drag strip last night. They were trying to see how fast they could go between speed bumps. I mean, I sat there and watched them. It was just ridiculous. So
I think we should have a meeting with the police department. I think we have an issue on perhaps relating to our appreciation or lack of appreciation when they formally had policemen assigned to us.
and honestly, I back that 100% because I have talked to their undersheriff, and he's not that pleased with how he was really treated here at Minturn. So
I think some
Separate
community.
item.
Why don't we add
Another
that
item, bring the sheriff. And
to be determined?
Yeah, well, I don't know that it needs to be a formal item, but I think it would be great if the town manager and maybe Gusty could go talk to them and.
I can give anybody Dan La Jolla's number too. It'd be worth giving him a call because there was some stuff that went down that shouldn't have went down.
There's the backstory.
Okay, back to future meetings, agenda items. I want to put one, I know more of a longer range agenda item. That is to start, we need to get a new CIP. And not just project oriented, but a general CIP to cover the town. It'll be a involved process. That's why I think we need to wait a little bit before we're ready to do it because we're pretty stressed with staff time this summer for sure. So I'd like to get that on the long term. Anybody else got anything else in mind?
I would just add that potentially in August, so a final plat application has been filed for the Midtown Village subdivision, and that probably will be coming to the council in August.
Is that done in stages to just include the water taps they already have?
Yeah, so part of the new code is you have to come through and get a water service letter for the development you're allowed to do within the finer subdivided or site plan approved areas of the plat, and that will be part of the application process.
Okay, anything else? Just one thing left to do.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion by Eric, second by Dusty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.